All right, y'all, so I'm going to show you how to set up the parenting and sort of structure for this character, get them animating, and then animate that in a loop on a background that is also moving. So it's going to be multi-tiered. First, what you have to do is set up your parenting hierarchy. And what that does is allow us to rotate these different layers without affecting these or by also pulling these child objects. So this hand is actually on its own layer in here. Notice how it's just a separate object, but it's just nestled in there. This arm is as well. So what your first step to your drawing is to get all of those arranged into parts. And then let me undo my hierarchy, my parented hierarchy. So this is the parenting window. You can toggle that on and off by this. But what these are essentially a bunch of symbols. Symbols in Animate are just a bunch of objects that have your line work and your fills all baked down into one sort of object. So when you're trying to animate them, you animate them as one whole object rather than a bunch of different individual strokes. So you're going to start with your line work, and essentially what you're going to go do is go to your just select that layer, and this is already a symbol, but what you're going to do is press F8, or I've noticed that if you have to hold like function or control F8 to use your F buttons, that sometimes doesn't work. So instead you can go to modify, convert to symbol right there. So you can press F8, and then you're going to convert this to forearm front, and then you can call it symbol to differentiate, but it'll be the same thing. And if you're going to be having these objects animate when you like, if you're going to copy keys on them into another view, you're going to want to use graphic over here. But if you're just doing this animation straight up in this file, you could do movie clip, so that's fine. And then I'm leaving all the options the same. And then you can also select what folder you want this to go in. So if you wanted to put that in a specific folder in your hierarchy in that library, then feel free. And you're going to press OK, and then it's going to pop up over here. So it'll be forearm front. And then if you double click on this, boom, you're in. You'll see the rest of your wizard went away, or the rest of your character went away. That's because you're in symbol view. So if you look up at the top left here, you can see forearm front is right there. That means that we're in the symbol view for that piece. So I'm going to go back out into the scene, and you'll see we're here. So basically, go through each of your layers. Press F8, boom, then name it hand front. Click OK. I already have a symbol of that, so I don't need to. And then you'll have that hand front pop up in your spot right there. Just do that for all of your layers. Boom. Every single layer. All right? So every single layer needs to be a symbol, and you can see all of my symbols in here. Boom. Every single different limb. And how you want to split up this character is have each different joint. Like we want to bend this elbow. That means that there has to be a separate layer for each of these objects. See how they're on separate layers? So split them up like that. Boom. Okay, so once you got them all into symbols, next what we have to do is change that anchor point. Notice how when I'm moving this around, there's that little anchor point in the middle. If I press Q, I can go into my free transform tool. That's Q. And then I can just rotate that. And these anchor points come in at like a default position in the middle. We don't want this chest to rotate from there, right? Like it's going to be like digging in and stuff. So let's move that down a little bit. Boom. So when we rotate that, it's going to be rotating from there. I suppose I could go into my symbol for this lower torso. Boom. Let's double click that. And then we could alter it in this view because I need to just have some more red coverage in there. So what I'm going to do is press I, and then let's go into my brush tool right here. Let's get a nice round torso in there. So wherever that So wherever that upper chest rotates, it's not going to be pulling on the torso very much, you know. And let's go in. Let's just give it a line on the outside. I'm in paint under mode or paint behind. So if I paint over this, boom, that mark ends up behind. So to establish that nice painting over the top, I'm going to go back to paint normal mode. Let's go in here. Boom. Not the cleanest there, so let's redo that. Boom. And now when I go back into this view, notice how that chest is filling that up again. And then if I press Q to rotate it, it looks like it's not as jarring then, you know. So I was just doing that, fixing that up. Let's get this back to default rotation. But yeah, so we need to set up our anchor points. The way we do that is pressing Q and then defining where we want to rotate this from. So if I pull this all the way out here, that's going to rotate from out there. So instead, let's get that kind of center of mass around where that joint is going to exist. Like for these elbows, set that up right on the elbow. You don't want to rotate this arm and have it rotating from there. That makes no sense. Just drag it right on top of that elbow. If it's snapping annoyingly, you can just zoom in and drag that around, and then just get the perfect pivot point for your art there. So that's looking good. And do that for every single layer. Set up that pivot point. Get it rotating from a nice spot in there. For the head, that's looking good. We should look at neck as well. Boom. Yep, that's looking great. All this is looking good. And then, so once you have those set up, then you're going to want to parent them. You're going to want to start parenting them together. So let's show parenting view. And you're going to go, it might be nice to work backwards. So basically, you're going to drag, like this hand needs to follow this forearm. So go to that hand front and drag it onto that forearm front. Perfect. And then this forearm, you can always test to see if it works by rotating the that parent. So see this multicolored box. This line signifies that this hand is always following this forearm, right? So this hand is going to follow that forearm, which is great. This forearm needs to follow that arm, so I'm going to drag it onto there. This arm needs to follow the chest, right? So then if we click on this, you can start to see our character come to life, right? Right? We're like, all this is getting linked up. So that's gonna be great. It's gonna work out perfectly for us. And then chest, that's gonna follow the torso. Torso is gonna follow the waist. See that? So now when I start rotating this spine area, we're getting some nice effects in here. Looking great. All right, and this upper leg, that's connected to your waist in real life, you know? It's like connected at the hips. So I'm gonna drag that to the waist right here. Boom. Because as that waist is walking, as like our waist is our center of gravity, we want that to be our base layer in there. And everything else is just kind of branching off from that, right? So then lower leg is going to follow that upper leg. Toe front is going to follow, it's actually going to follow foot front. Foot front is going to follow that lower leg. Oops, there you go. Foot front, toe front, boom, perfect. And then upper leg back is going to follow that waist. Let's just drag it up, boom. Lower leg, like my calf is going to follow my thigh, you know. Foot is going to follow that calf. Toe is going to follow that foot, you know. So that's our hierarchy we got going there. We have arm back, hand back, forearm back now. So let's just do this in reverse order. So hand is going to follow that forearm, boom. Forearm is going to follow that arm, which is like the shoulder to the elbow region. And then arm is going to follow your chest, right? We're connected at that chest. So boom, let's put that there. And now we should have a character that we can start to pose around. Oh, looks like we forgot the neck. Let's see where that is in our list, in our hierarchy. Right here, head and neck. So head is going to follow the neck, and the neck is going to follow the chest. Boom, all that links back to the chest. So there you go. We have this character, able to animate them now. Exactly what we're looking for. All right. So now I recommend saving your scene. Let's do save as. Let's say parented. Because you just went through that parenting hierarchy and parented all those pieces. And now let's give ourselves a little bit of time for a walk cycle. So let's go to, we're basically going to mass add some frames onto this. So if we scrub over, or if we select over here, I'm going to go around frame 22, and I'm just going to drag select downward here. And now I'm just going to press F5. Boom, F5. That's going to give us some keys there now. Right, so we have some empty time here. So from frame 1 to 22, that's going to work nicely. Let's go at the halfway point between that. And let's start getting some, let's get another key in there. I'm going to press, I'm going to select all my layers here. I'm just going to press F6. So I have a key of just this default pose on there as well. And I have a key of that default pose at this first point. And so let's start getting this to be a walk cycle. So I'm going to get this pose of this back leg going in oriented away from the body. It's doing some work, kind of pushing that body forward. I'm just getting that like pedestrian crossing sign pose here. And whenever your left leg goes forward, your right arm goes forward. It's always the opposite when you're walking. So let's get that represented. Oh, you can see that there's a little bit of problem of my back hand overlapping my thigh there. So I'm going to need to just change that hierarchy here. So forearm back, hand back, arm back. And let's put that just in the back of everything. Boom. There you go. And you can see all of that is falling behind, and it will pass nicely there. All right. So that's it. All these keys are updating as we're changing that pose, which is fantastic. And then you can see as we go to that other pose, it's going back to that default because we keyed that on this frame 12 right there. And what we need to do is change this pose to be basically the opposite of this. So we're gonna rotate that hand back in space there, and then this other hand forward. Remember, we don't want to change it right there. We need to drag our time slider to that next key first, and then let's get that arm rotated back that way. Let's get this arm rotated forward. If we want, we can add a little bit of a bend this way, and then let's get this arm going in front. Let's get this, arm. I shouldn't have called it arm. Let's get that leg going in front right there. Rotate it a little bit more. It's going to cross over that waist a little bit or cross under it. That's fine because we can't really control that. We would need to have like a different drawing of this waist skirt thing, this little tunic endpoint. We need to have a different one there. But yeah, so now we have this, right? So our character is kind of doing the two key poses of that walk cycle. So now, since they're symbols, something that's awesome that we can do is add automatic tweening to this. Like normally we'd have to draw all these in-betweens, right? But if we just drag select over those keys and right click and do create classic tween, look at that magic. Oof. Look at that magic. Beautiful. And then you'll notice that it just ends at that pose. What we need to do is select all of these first keys, And then I'm going to do Control Alt C. You can also hold. You can also press right click and do copy frames, but I recommend getting used to the hotkeys. And then let's do Control Alt V after selecting all of these layers, because we're going to copy all these keys over here. Boom. So now we have that pose right there. And then one last thing is we need to convert this to a classic tween. So I'm going to select all of those, right click, do create classic tween. Boom, look at that. And if I set up my little looping parameter with this little button right here, I can drag that. You can see them just making that movement right there. It's exactly what we're looking for. It's exactly what we're looking for. You also probably want to add some like during these passing poses, you want to lift that leg, that front leg up, right? So let's do that. Let's just rotate that bad boy, and then I'm in that lower leg front. I want to back out of that. Let's do this. Boom. And then notice that when I changed those two values, it added those keys to my timeline there. So now it's going to automatically, boom, do that for us. See how it just knew that we wanted to have that arm rotate, or that leg rotating up like that. We can do that for the other leg as it's passing in the background, like around here. Let's do, we're looking for upper leg front, and these get annoying to select, so I'm just going to do this. And then yeah, so that now we have those keyed, kind of taking those steps. You can also raise the waist, like notice how this back foot, it plants in the front and then it goes below the floor plane right there. Really, we should have this rotating like here. And then I also want to have this waist kind of moving up. I want to have that waist moving up a little bit. Right there, perfect. Now let's get it moving up on this frame as well. Boom. There you go. And you got this character walking now. That's beautiful. That's awesome. Our next step is to get a scrolling background in here, and get this walk cycle to be something that we can loop in a scene, right? Something that we can loop for a while. So there's a few steps involved in that. Basically, I'm going to save this scene. Save as Resident Wizard Animated. Boom. And I'm going to create a new scene that's going to be kind of where we compose all of these different pieces. This is kind of just our source file for the animation. But then you'll see when we convert this to a symbol, like we did with all of these other joints, you'll see that we can alter the animation in there as well, and it'll be fine. But first, let's make that symbol. The way we're going to do that is I'm going to drag select over all these keys, and then I'm going to Control Alt C or right click, copy frames, and then let's go to File New. Let's just make a new scene. This is going to be where we compose it. So it's going to be the scene that has the wizard walking and the background. So let's do full HD 1080. Boom. And then here we go. And then our first step is because we still have those frames copied, we're going to go to Insert New Symbol, and make sure you're on Type Graphic. Otherwise, this won't work at all. This will not work. Let's do Walk Cycle Symbol. Make sure it's graphic. And then let's do OK. And then let's just click this frame and right click, paste frames, or Control Alt V. And then boom, we got this symbol. Now, remember, since we just did insert symbol, we're in a symbol view here. So let's back out into our Untitled 2 scene. And then we're going to drag that newly created symbol into our shot now. And then notice that nothing happens because I only have one frame in this animation. Let's just click on 100. I'm going to press F5. And then now that bad boy's just looping. Look at him. Look at him go. Look at him go. And the fact, something that's cool about this is that now that this is a symbol, we can move him over here. And, oh, I want to remove this. I'm just going to drag Shift F5. And then let's get him on that left side. And let's do another key over here. I'm just going to move them across. Boom. I'm going to create a classic tween. So look at that. Look at that. Beautiful. Beautiful stuff. So we're not going to require that. I'm going to remove that classic tween. We don't need any of that at all. In fact, I'm just going to return them to the center of the screen. I'm also going to scale them down a little bit. So let's get some background elements going. So I'm going to add a layer. Boom. I'm going to rename that layer with a wizard to wizard layer. Then I'm going to double click this, and let's say this is rocks layer. Now you could import your own like drawings from Photoshop and stuff, but I'm just going to draw them straight up in here. And I'm going to make sure I'm on my black lines. There we go. And just make some cool little rocks that you want in your scene. Boom. These are going to be our good rock friends. They don't look too crazy or anything, but they'll get the job done. And then let's get another one in here. I'm just being loose with this, you know. These little background elements might as well. There we go. Then if I want to add some color to these bad boys, we're gonna want to go over to our swatches. I always like doing tag swatches. See, I have my tag swatches here, and then let's do rock color. And then I like using the hue right here to get my colors. It's just easier for me. And I'm going to click OK. Now I'm going to do fill bucket. Let's close that, and let's go into my properties. I want to have close large gaps because I was very loose with when I was drawing these. So let's make sure we fill up all these shapes. Very nice. Oh, even though I went in and did close large gaps, it still wasn't enough to close that one. I messed up, so there we go. Let's fill this up. Perfect. Delightful. Delicious. Very nice. All right. So now we have some rocks, and we're going to do exactly what we did with our limbs and our wizard. In order to get these rocks animating, I'm going to want to, you guessed it, press F8 on this layer and do convert to symbol. Remember, you can do that under modify as well. Let's do rocks. And then I'm going to leave it as graphic. That's fine by me. So now that this is a symbol, what we can do is move all of these. I'm just going to move them to the right. And then let's go down our timeline and then set a key right there. And then let's create a classic tween on that. Boom. So now it looks like they're walking past these rocks, but unfortunately, these rocks are above the wizard. We can just fix that by moving the layer under the wizard layer. And then boom, look at that. Delightful. If we want to get more in the background, kind of doing a little bit like kind of pushing on that perspective a little bit, we can do that. So I'm going to go to my library. I'm going to get that rocks. I'm going to add a layer. I'm just going to drag that rocks symbol into my scene, and then I'm going to press Q to go to free transform. I'm going to scale those down. Let's get them a bit smaller than that other set right there. And yeah, it's looking good. And you can see that it already has that key on there for us. Let's go to that last frame, and I'm just going to shift those over. I'm not going to go nearly as far, though, because these are in perspective, you know? Like, if they're in that background, they're not going to be moving as much. So then let's click Create Classic Tween. Boom, look at that. Look at that. I could do the same thing with anything. So if I wanted, like, a background, I'm just going to get, like, a basic, like, desert sand or something. So I'm going to go to New Layer. I'm going to name this Sand Layer. And then on this first frame, let's just start drawing. Let's get that brush going. I like using this liquid brush. It's very great. And let's get like a little. Let's change that color. Let's change that color to be black to make it unified with the rest of the. So I'm gonna give this a little bit. I'm gonna give this line a little bit of texture to it. So it's as if there's like a bunch of dunes in the background. And I'm going to draw, notice that I'm drawing pretty far into the distance here. I'm just making sure that I can scroll this and not have it make a lot of problems for me. And so I'm just going to close this shape off by drawing through the rest of it. Boom. And I appear to be drawing on the wrong layer. That's not what I want. Whoops. So I'm just going to select that, and then going to press Control X to cut it out, and then let's select this key, and then Control V. And there we go. So now we have that in the proper layer. There we go. And let's go in and let's start editing this. Like, hopefully this shape closes up there. It does, barely. But that's fine. And then let's make another color. I'm going to do another tag swatch. And then let's make this sand color. And then let's double click on that because I forgot to change the color before pressing enter. Let's get this to be a bright sandy color. And then let's just press K to do our paint bucket. And I'm going to fill that layer. And then I'm going to select this entire layer. Let's convert this bad boy to symbol. So F8, sand symbol. And it's a graphic. And then now what we can do is we can just, oh, sorry, don't drag that. Drag our time slider over here. And then we're going to set a new key on this frame. We're going to go to our free transform tool. And I'm just going to slightly move that. Right there. And select this, create classic tween. So you can see that background subtly moving, right? Very subtly. I feel like these up front rocks are kind of moving too fast. I'm going to add a little bit of time on that with F5. That's looking pretty good. That's looking pretty good, yeah. I'm going to add a little bit more. There you go, and you can see everything else disappeared because we don't have keyframes for that, you know. But that's fine. We can just have our scene end at frame 76. But yeah, so that's how you get all of your elements into a scene and get a background in there. Really cool stuff. Like we could do a sky as well, have that be behind the sand. We could put a sun in there, all sorts of stuff. But yeah, awesome. Thanks for watching, y'all.